Weather's shaping up overnight and into tomorrow morning.
Since the first Gulf War, I've covered complex conflicts around the globe. For comprehensive coverage of the ongoing situation in Ukraine, join me, Alastair Stewart, every Saturday and Sunday from noon.
If you are the most authoritarian regime, at some point they will rise up.
We tend to become more dangerous.
You cannot occupy a country of that size.
And that means World War III.
That means war.
Putin did not expect that.
That's me, Alastair Stewart, from 12, Saturday and Sunday on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debate, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. It's coming up to, well, it's just gone 4 o'clock actually. I'm Nana Akua. Now for the next 2 hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of those big topics that are hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me today, it's comedian Leo Kearse and also writer and actor Yanis Morgan. Which one's which, I hear you ask? The tall, long one is, what's his face? In a few moments' time, we'll be getting... Does that help you?
I'm not sure who I am anymore.
No, I don't know who you are. In a few moments' time, we'll be getting more reaction to the news that the Conservative MP, Neil Parish, is resigning after admitting he watched pornography in the House of Commons. Before we get started, let's get your latest news headlines.
Good afternoon, it's 1 minute past 4. I'm Tamsin Roberts in the GB newsroom. The MP accused of watching pornography in the Commons has announced that he will resign. Neil Parish admitted looking at adult material on 2 occasions, once deliberately. A spokesperson for his local Conservative association thanked the MP for his service to his Devon constituency over the past 12 years and said they supported the decision. Neil Parish had previously rejected calls to stand down, saying he'd wait for the outcome of a parliamentary standards inquiry.
This is something that men get up to in all walks of life, at all stages of life, and in all political parties. Neil Parish's problem was that he was doing it so that his women colleagues sitting near him could see, which is deeply unpleasant, very offensive. Of course, he shouldn't have been doing it in the first place, and he certainly shouldn't have been doing it in the chamber.
An MP has accused Labour of hypocrisy for saying he was wasting police time by calling for an investigation into claims Sir Keir Starmer broke COVID rules during lockdown. The Labour leader is accused of drinking beer at a gathering in Durham in April last year. Richard Holden says Labour spent months calling for an investigation into exactly the same kind of events in Downing Street and Whitehall. But Shadow Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson says there is no comparison between what Sir Keir did and the Downing Street parties.
Police have looked into the matter. There's no case to answer. No rules were broken. I can see why Tory MPs ahead of the local elections want to spend their time seeking to drag us all into the gutter and make out that we're all the same. But really, you look at the number of fines that have been issued at Downing Street, the fact that the Prime Minister lied to the British people, that he's lied to Parliament, that we've got the only Prime Minister in modern times to have broken the law to still be in office, and understand just why they're getting so desperate around this. Tory MPs should know better than to waste police time on this.
Police searching for a woman who went missing a week ago in Lancashire say they have found the body of a woman. Katie Kenyon was last seen getting into a Ford Transit van in Burnley 8 days ago. Officers say formal identification is yet to take place, but the family of the 33-year-old mother of two have been informed of the discovery. The government is investigating reports an injured British man is being held captive by Russia. It's after an unverified video emerged reportedly showing Andrew Hill with a sling and a bandage around his head being interrogated by Russian forces after being captured in Ukraine. The Foreign Office is urgently seeking more information and is supporting his family members. Police in Ukraine say they found a mass grave containing the bodies of 3 men, and they say they had been bound, gagged and tortured. It's after US accused Russian President Vladimir Putin of brutality and depravity in his 2-month invasion of the country. A Pentagon spokesman says violent and cruel acts have been committed against innocent civilians with utter disregard for their lives. The brother of Kiev's mayor, Vladimir Klitschko, says he's seen evidence of Russian war crimes in Ukraine.
Tortured, executed bodies of civilians with their hands tied behind their back, on their knee, and executed with the headshots. I've seen it with my own eyes, many, hundreds of dead civilians. It's just horrifying.
Meanwhile, the city of Mariupol is still under siege, with Russian forces focusing on the steelworks, where hundreds of troops and civilians are stranded. Footage has emerged of Ukrainian soldiers in the steel plant singing the national anthem. It's as Ukraine's military say Russian forces continue to attack the eastern Donbas region, but have so far failed to capture 3 target areas. As the siege continues, residents of Mariupol have spoken of the total devastation of their homes.
It was my home, or what's left of it after the shellings. Everything burned, so now I have become homeless. I have nowhere to go. Now I live in my friend's place. He sheltered me for some time. Everything is gone. All that's left is the toilet, door and hallway. Nothing more.
Tell me, was it a necessity to bomb civilians with such bombs? You have to be a fanatic to do it. No shame, no conscience, no feeling of proportion, nothing. They made the whole block homeless in old age.
The Met Police is launching a new bid to overturn a High Court ruling which found officers breached the rights of organisers of the Sarah Everard Vigil in 2021. Scuffles broke out at the event between police and some of those taking part in the vigil. Reclaim These Streets has criticised the force for spending more taxpayer money after Scotland Yard said it would take the case to the Court of Appeal. However, the Met says its appeal focuses on decisions and communications with the group ahead of the event. This is GB News. We'll bring you more news as it happens, of course. Now, though, let's return to Nana.
So good afternoon. It's fast approaching 7 minutes past 4 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. Well, we're going to start this hour by getting more reaction to the news that the Conservative MP for Tiverton and Honiton, Neil Parish, has resigned after admitting that he watched pornography twice in the House of Commons. He was suspended by the Conservative Party on Friday over the allegations, and 2 female colleagues claimed that they had seen him looking at adult content on his phone while sitting near them. Now, the MP told the BBC this afternoon it was a moment of madness and he was not proud of what he was doing. He went on to say for the first time that it was accidental and after looking at tractors, but the second time was actually deliberate. So let's get some reaction to the news of this resignation. I'm joined by former Conservative advisor Claire Pearsall. Claire, good afternoon. Now, we spoke about this yesterday. Are you surprised that he's actually resigned now?
I'm disappointed he's resigned for a number of reasons, but I'm not surprised. He will be hounded by the media. He will also be hounded by his residents, quite rightly, who want an answer. But also, if he came back to the House of Commons when we return in a couple of weeks' time, I suspect that all questions will be directed to him about this behaviour. So I can understand why he's done it, but I'm disappointed because it means now that there is no investigation, and I do worry that no action will ever get taken to change the atmosphere that we have.
Well, I mean, look, in Parliament, you guys are lawmakers. Surely they can deal with that and change the process. But what I want to know is the constituency voted for him. And I think his majority was almost 64% or whatever it was the last time he was elected. Initially, with a 50% majority, I think it was in 2014 or 2000, whenever it was. And he's very, very popular. He's involved in so many different issues locally and within his where he is a constituent. And a lot of those people might consider that actually surely they should have had the decision as to whether he should go or not.
And I think you're right. Neil has a majority of over 24,000, which is, quite substantial. So the majority of people down there think that he is a really good MP. And he is. And I've worked alongside him on a number of issues previously. And he's always been extremely diligent and very professional and very pleasant. And I do think that it's right that his constituents would be the ones that are the ultimate arbiters of whether he stays or he goes. But unfortunately, this is all blown up. And I think he's taken the decision that he's now more of a distraction to his constituents than an asset. And that's why he's done it.
So it was mainly his decision. I mean, it was 2010 when he was the initially with a 50.3% actually. And then in 2015, it went up to 54%. And actually in 2017, 61.4%. And as you rightly said, most recently, with a 24,000 majority. And it just seems that there seems to be this way of literally witch hunting people out of politics and there'll be nobody left. Do you think there is actually a problem with the state of politics, or is just looking at your mobile phone in a minute of madness at some pornography actually not that bad?
Oh, well, and as I said to you before, I think the fact of looking at pornography in the chamber is wrong. I don't think anybody's going to stand up there and say that. The defence that he's given today, that he was one time was accidentally because he was really searching for tractors. It's a little bit sort of comedic and slightly playing down the issue, but then he did admit that the second time was deliberate. But this isn't normal behaviour in a workplace. Any other business, you would be disciplined and probably out on your ear really quickly. I do think there's a real problem with how we deal with things in Parliament so that we actually deal with them a lot quicker. Because as you said, it became a witch hunt. It always does. Everybody sets a hair running and we all chase around. Whereas if you just dealt with it quickly and decisively, you'd remove that void. You would remove us all thinking of different names of people it may or may not have been and actually get to the root of the problem.
And the thing is, forget women not wanting to be involved in politics. Literally no one will be. And as Neil's wife rightly said, if you were mad with every man who looked at pornography, then you'd actually, there'd be no wives left in the world. And she's quite right with that. Listen, Claire, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining me. That's Claire Pearsall. She's a former Conservative advisor. We'll come back to this story in the Great British Debate this hour, as I'm going to ask you, should Tory MP Neil Parish have resigned over watching porn in the Houses of Commons? I mean, is this, do you think that that's really how it should be? Let me know what you think. You can get in touch. You can email gbviews@gbnews.uk. So if you just join me, I am Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. Now, after repeatedly berating Boris Johnson with Partygate, 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 remember this?
No. Everyone could see what happened. Exactly. It started with reports of boozy parties in Downing Street during lockdown. that when the whole country was locked down, he was hosting boozy parties in Downing Street? Yes. Is he now going to do the decent thing and resign? Yes. The Prime Minister pretended that he had been assured there were no parties. Yes. How that fits with this Defence Act, I do not know.
It just went on for months and months. I mean, I could only play you a short clip because it was so tedious and my teeth started hurting when I watched too much of that. You see, in April last year, when socialising indoors was banned, Sir Keir Starmer attended an event at Mary Foy's constituency office. She's the Labour MP for the city of Durham. He was pictured having a beer, and there was a mystery woman in attendance. I wonder who that was. Whilst I don't agree with blatant breaches of rules which were made into law at the time, and very silly laws, I might add. But the reason I didn't berate Boris when he had broken the rules was because I'm pretty sure that I broke them also, even though I thought I wasn't breaking them. And I don't want to be found out to be a hypocrite. Now, the problem with having only Partygate to go on as your reasoning for deposing of a Prime Minister and then calling him a liar is if you too turn out to have lied. Like saying that Angela Rayner wasn't present at an event that may well have breached the rules when she actually was, you'll then actually lose all credibility. Both he and Angela Rayner then went on to deny the presence of the Deputy Leader at the said event, which is what would actually be termed as a lie. I'm not supposed to call it that, but if you say you are or aren't somewhere and then it turns out that you've simply said what you said is just not true, then one would struggle to accept that you forgot that you attended. So I'm not sure what else to call it. So sue me if I've made a mistake. You've got to hand it to Boris. He was called out and he said that he didn't think he was breaching the rules and he has since apologised and paid the relevant fine. Now, I can't see why what Sir Keir did attending a gathering in the way he did was any different. Boris took an absolute bashing from all sides, so I don't see why Sir Keir should go under the radar. The rule of law should be applied equally. And why on earth would you deny somebody was at an event unless, of course, you had something to hide? This all came to light after a video was released which appeared to prove Angela Rayner was, in fact, at the event. A spokesperson from the Labour Party has said, Keir Starmer was in the workplace, meeting a local MP in her office and participating in an online Labour Party event. They paused for food as the meeting was during the evening. No rules were broken. There is simply no comparison between standing in a kitchen, having something to eat between meetings, with multiple flagrant rule-breaking drinks parties at the heart of government, dismissed by lies at the dispatch box and resulting in an apology to the Queen. Really? So why lie? Not so fast, Sir Keir. I'm afraid I'm not prepared to let you off the hook. So before we get stuck into the debate, here's what else is coming up today. At 5 o'clock in my difficult conversation, I'll meet the woman who continues to defy doctors after being given just 3 months to live in 2006. Sandra Hamilton has gone on to start an organisation working to support others with cancer. She'll join me alongside someone who, thanks to her help, has worked to develop a brand new treatment at the University College London. The Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, was Tory MP Neil Parish right to resign for watching porn? Not once, but twice in the House of Commons. The MP for Tiverton and Honiton in Devon and the chair of the Commons Environment, Food and Rural Affairs Committee claims he initially opened it by mistake, but did watch it on purpose the second time. So I'm asking, was Tory MP Neil Parish right to resign for watching porn in the Commons? And royal commentator Richard Fitzwilliams will join me in the studio to take a look back at what's been happening in the royal household this week. And on the agenda, well, was Prince Edward's royal tour of the Caribbean a success? And also we'll talk Prince Harry, his book and his apparently rocky relationship with Camilla, who is in line to be the Queen. Tell me what you think on everything we're discussing. You can email gbviews@gbnews.uk or send me that tweet at gbnews. Right, let's get started. Welcome again to my panel, writer and actor Yanis Morgan and also comedian Leo Kearse. Right, so nice to see you both. Right, nice to see you. Yanis, it's been a while.
I know, it's been a little while.
What have you been doing?
Bit of this, bit of that.
Yes, I thought you'd say that.
That sounds dodgy.
That does, doesn't it? It
Yeah.
sounds a bit like one of those parties.
Nicking cars and like chopping them and putting them together, selling them.
Incriminate myself.
Yeah, exactly. Not on live TV. So, Yanis, what do you think? So, Keir Starmer, he had some drinks. They didn't say that Angela Rayner was there. Now it turns out only because a video has come to light that actually it was her. They've admitted it that it was her, but then they said it's not a party. I mean, come on, if you're going to do that to Boris Johnson and keep talking about it in Prime Minister's questions in the way that you did, surely.
Look, I agree with everything that you said. I am sick to death of politics, the tit for tat. What is going on in our politics? We're talking about this. There are serious issues out there. And, you know, there's something that I was reading in the newspaper, an important thing that no one's talking about. So the Common Standards Committee is talking about how foreign countries are influencing our MPs. They've got unfettered access.
Of course, we know
That's
that,
serious,
yes.
right? And what we're talking about, Keir Starmer having a beer. I'm just tired of the tit for tat.
Well, the reason why we're talking about it and the reason why, and I'm absolutely with you, I wouldn't even bother with it because I wasn't bothered with Partygate. But what I'm not comfortable with is somebody who is berating somebody else for something that they're supposedly doing, which I really wasn't bothered about.
Yeah.
But then it turns out that person may well have been doing something similar and then hides the identity of somebody who was there and then is calling somebody else a liar. You know, he was saying that pretty much that Boris Johnson wasn't telling the truth, when it turns out that, well, it doesn't sound like he was either. And he is the deputy leader of the Labour Party, and that is my issue.
Yeah, the hypocrisy is just flagrant and so obvious. And they've gone through, I'm getting pure déjà vu from what Boris went through. So all the details have to be dragged out. You know, like Keir won't admit that Angela Rayner was there. He won't admit he was having a beer until there's evidence. And then he has to admit. And he's using the same thing. He's saying the same thing as Boris, which is that it was a work event, which, to be honest, I believe it was a work event. I believe Boris's events were work events. I think when you're working in that sort of high-pressure job with long hours, you're going to have beers at work, and it's going to, you know, it breaks down the barriers. You don't just pack up and go down the pub. You know, you do things at your desk.
You're not going to throw a party, though.
And in a way, it wasn't really like what Boris was saying. It was in the garden, there were people at work. That's where he works.
No, that was a proper party.
Yeah, but
listen, that wasn't a party.
I had a DJ there.
But listen, if you have a party. Yeah, but OK, so it seemed to me, and I was confused about the rules.
Work DJ.
If you have a support bubble and the people in the support bubble are working environment, they're the same people around you all the time, then it's OK to be together with those people, as far as I could understand with the rules. So it's not like they had outside people coming in and people who weren't there and the point of the rules was not to spread the infection to a different group of people to go out and spread. So if they're the same people meeting in the same place and just because you've got music and beers and you're in a garden, you're actually outside. I mean, it's just... I don't really even want to waste time with Partygate, but my point is, if you are going to castigate somebody else, then you must also be held to account.
Well, look, I agree with that point, because you can't be a hypocrite. But equally, these are individuals who are meant to be leading the country. We should be looking up to them. And I think the behaviour, the tit for tat, what's going on here, these aren't role models that we can look up to.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it's cheap sort of political point scoring when, I mean, there are some serious issues. I mean, Boris and potentially Keir as well, like lying in Parliament and lying. That's serious. Yeah, but having a party, I mean, all right, I understand that the government set the rules and shouldn't have been breaking them, but was anybody really following them? I know a lot of people out there, you know, have been moaning, saying, I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that. And it's like, well, you could have if you didn't follow the rules. The lesson you've learned is when stupid rules come out, don't follow them. These weren't morally correct rules. These were rules that infringed on our basic, inalienable human rights.
Don't try and say words you can't say.
It's
I don't know what you're trying to say.
I've just come from a work party, OK? It's difficult to pronounce some words.
That would be it. Yeah, no, I hear you. But ultimately, I just don't think... People in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. That's my only thing with this. I don't want to talk about his party. I'm not interested in his party. But ultimately, I don't think it's fair that after the bashing that he gave Boris, he should be able to slip under the radar and then use all the events. He would have called this a distraction. He called Partygate. He called Boris doing his job as a Prime Minister a distraction from Partygate. Yeah. Well, what is he doing now? Why are they distracting from the actual business of government?
Well, these stories. These are distractions. But then it's not individual, you know, instances.
Well, we'll be talking about even more of those because if you just joined me, I'm Nana Akua. This is GBNews on TV, online and on digital radio. Now, after the break, it's time for the Great British Debate this hour, and we have to talk about it. Tory MP Neil Parish, was he right to resign for watching porn in the Commons? The MP for Tiverton and Honiton has stepped down for watching pornography twice. Not once, but twice. Something he claims he may have opened by mistake the first time. but then unfortunately returned to it a second time. But then, because he was looking for tractors, I think it was, he said. So I'm asking, was Tory MP Neil Parish right to resign for allegedly watching porn in the Commons? Send us an email. You can get in touch now. gbviews@gbnews.uk. Tell us what you think. You can also tweet at GBNews. And there is a poll-up asking that very question. Was Tory MP Neil Parish right to resign for watching porn? Cast your vote now. We'll be back in a moment.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
So it's fast approaching 25 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. I'm still with my panel, comedian Leo Kearse and also actor and writer Yanis Morgan. Right, now, before the break, we were discussing whether Labour are hypocrites after months of calling for Boris Johnson's resignation over Partygate. You heard all about it. We're all sick of it. But despite that, Sir Keir Starmer was drinking a beer at a gathering with his deputy, Angela Rayner. The Labour leader has said that no rules were broken at the event in April in 2021 in the Durham MP's constituency office. So let's see what you've been saying about that. Ian says, you are so bored of Partygate, but as a hypocrite, you are happy to continue to rabbit on about Beergate. Nobody lies as much as that buffoon Boris. Listen, I'm not happy to lie about any of this. I'd rather be talking about the events today, but I'm afraid that I can't let somebody get away with accusing somebody repeatedly of something that they themselves have been doing. I just can't let it happen. Pauline says it's time for Starmer to own up to the truth. Starmer is supposed to be a lawyer. He should uphold the law. Les says, away, Nana. If the police don't investigate the Labour beer party in Durham, then how can the rest of us law-abiding citizens trust the keepers of the laws of this land? I think they should absolutely, just as Sir Keir insisted that they investigate Boris Johnson. Bob says it seems rather unfair that Boris has been damaged so much for months and Starmer will probably get away with it. Well, that's it, isn't it? He's hiding under the thing and then he's going to say that this is a distraction. He'll call Beergate a distraction and say we need to focus on the policies, won't he? Typical. Right, but it's time now for the Great British Debate. Keep all your views coming. I'm asking, was Tory MP Neil Parish right to resign for watching porn in the Commons? The MP for Tiverton and Honiton in Devon and the chair of the Commons Environment, Food and Rural Affairs Committee was under investigation for allegedly watching pornography on his phone, which he claims he opened accidentally. But announcing his resignation earlier this afternoon, he admitted watching porn a second time intentionally. He told the BBC it was a moment of madness and he was not proud of what he was doing. Just 3 days ago, Parish was on GBNews speaking to Darren McCaffrey about the incident, and this is what he told us about it then.
I mean, I think the Whip's office will do a thorough investigation and we will wait and see that result. And I think, from that, then the decision will have to be made what action to be taken.
And now he was asked about whether that person should be punished and what should happen, and that was the description of what the punishment he thought should be given. So I'm asking, was Tory MP Neil Parish right to resign for watching porn in the Commons? I'm joined now in the studio by former Government Minister and former Liberal Democrat MP Norman Baker. Norman, thank you so much for joining me. So firstly, I want to ask you about this because, I mean, is this another scandal after rows over Partygate, bullying allegations and more recently misogyny? Are there any standards left in politics at all?
Well, I mean, all human life is here, to say about about Parliament, and the same you'll find in any coterie of large numbers of people. You'll find people who behave in ways which are disreputable. I'm afraid that's the case with human nature. But look, I mean, was he right to resign, you're asking? I'm not sure he was, and this is a contrary view, no doubt, probably a minority view. But look, he's behaved in a scuzzy way. He's been watching pornography, which isn't illegal, by the way. I presume it's not illegal what he was watching. We don't know, but we presume it wasn't. He had female MPs around him, so that's a bit distasteful that he was behaving in that way with female MPs nearby. And what was he doing with a phone on in chamber? Anyway, he's been doing his job properly, listening to the debate or taking part. I mean, they're the issues for me. So, I'm not defending his behaviour in any shape or form. But, to resign seems a bit step too far. You resign when you've been guilty of some really serious offence. What offence has he committed here? He's offended some Tory MPs sitting next to him. That's not very pleasant. He's been distracted from doing his job properly. That's clearly a fault. And he's been behaving in behaviour that some people would regard as unacceptable. But that's not illegal. So I just don't think resigning was the appropriate matter. And I think the judgment should come for people like Neil Parish with his electorate. When the election comes around, first of all, his constituency association has to reaffirm him as a candidate. So he has to pass that test with his party. And then if he passes that test, the electorate in Tiverton and Honiton will have a view on him. That's the way it should go. And I think we can't have people resigning for, every single thing under the sun. You may remember that I was the MP who exposed the MP's expenses scandal back in 2009, 2010. And, a lot of stuff that happened then was far worse than this. It was corruption. It was abusing public money. And some of those people stayed in office.
Well, I remember it very clearly. I remember the duck moat and everything. I mean, it was ridiculous. Yes. But the thing is, I mean, and actually I agree with you, because I can see no reason why, OK, whatever you're doing that you shouldn't be doing, whether it's watching porn or whatever it is, your job is to do the job you're doing. So if you're not doing that, you should be punished for that. But just because he's watching pornography doesn't mean it's any worse than anything else. And he shouldn't be doing that, I admit. But he's an excellent MP. I mean, he's been running since 2010, right? I mean, he had over a 50% popular vote. The last time, I mean, in 2019, he had a massive share of the electorate, 61.4%. And he's very good at what he's done. He's done a lot of great things. How are we going to attract people into politics if these things people get sort of thrown out or resigned over things?
I don't know whether he's a good MP or not. What I would say is that people in safe
But they like him, though. They keep re-electing.
They may elect the party label. I don't know they're electing him. I'm not saying he isn't a good MP. I just don't know. If people vote for the party quite often rather than the candidate. But you're right.
But still, I mean, you say that, but at least he was elected and his majority is
absolutely.
Bigger. So that's
right.
Credit where credit's due.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He was elected with a big majority. So you're right that people won't be attracted to politics if they feel that every single thing they do is going to be scrutinised and criticised by the public at large with a whole lot of offensive tweets and everything else, and criticised by the media constantly. It's a different world that we're now living in when I was there even 7 years ago. I want to ask the question, though, what does he actually resign for? Has he resigned because he was watching pornography? Because people might think it's distasteful, but it's legal. Was he resigning because he upset some fellow Tory MPs? Was he resigning because he wasn't doing his job properly in the Commons? What was the reason for his resignation? Had he been watching football on his phone, would that have been a resigning matter? I think we need to be clear what this is about.
Yeah, you make a very good point as well, because, I mean, I've seen them sleeping in the Commons.
Jacob Rees-Mogg fast asleep on the front bench.
People, exactly, on the front bench. So, you're not actually doing the job that you're paid to do. So that's the only thing I'm bothered about, not what it is that you're doing whilst you're not doing the job that you're supposed to be paid to do. But then he's clarified it by saying he looked at it first by accident, which we do get things popping up on mobile phones. You have to accept that happens. And then sometimes, if you're curious, you might go back to it and think, what have I just seen? And they say, oh, my goodness, what have I... So that sounds to me like what happened. He went back to it second time, but just because he went back to it the second time, does that make it worse?
I don't think it's well. I mean, it depends how your view on pornography is, but I mean, it's not an offence. That's the point. People commit an offence, when they break the law. That's a different matter. I might just say, going back to the Spencer scandal, David Cameron claimed for things in his house which were pretty dodgy. He became Prime Minister afterwards.
Yeah. So this, he shouldn't have resigned.
Well, I don't think the threshold for resignation was reached. I think there was there's a distasteful element to all this, and he hasn't behaved very well, and he should have been disciplined in some sort of way by his own party. But I think resignation is personally, I think it's a step too far.
It's a step too far. Well, and very, very briefly, because we've got about 30 seconds, are there any rules that will help if somebody has breached something like this? Is there any process that people must go through before you can just say they have to resign?
Not really. It's art rather than science. But what I would say is, what on earth are MPs doing with phones in the Commons anyway? They should be, in the Commons and in classrooms, they should be banned. They should be in there to do work, not to look at their phone.
Yeah, no mobile phones and that. I don't think that'll go down well. Norman, it's really good to talk to you. Thank you so much for talking to me. That's Norman Baker. He's the former government minister and former Liberal Democrat MP. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. Still to come, we'll continue with the Great British Debate. And I'm asking, was Tory MP Neil Parish right to resign for watching porn in the Commons? You'll hear the thoughts from my panel, writer and actor Yanis Morgan, and also comedian Leo Kearse. First, let's get your latest news headlines.
Good afternoon, it's 4:33. I'm Tamsin Roberts in the GB newsroom. The MP accused of watching pornography in the Commons has announced he'll resign. Neil Parish admitted looking at adult material on 2 occasions, once deliberately. A spokesperson for his local Conservative association thanked the MP for his service and said they supported the decision. Neil Parish had previously rejected calls to stand down, saying he'd wait for the outcome of a parliamentary standards inquiry. The government is investigating reports an injured British man is being held captive by Russia. It's after an unverified video emerged, reportedly showing Andrew Hill with a sling and a bandage round his head being interrogated by Russian forces. The Foreign Office is urgently seeking more information and is supporting his family members. Meanwhile, police in Ukraine say they found a mass grave containing the bodies of 3 men who they say had been bound, gagged and tortured. Meanwhile, the US has accused the Russian President Vladimir Putin of brutality and depravity in his 2-month invasion of Ukraine. A Pentagon spokesman says violent and cruel acts have been committed against innocent civilians with utter disregard for their lives. Police searching for a woman who went missing a week ago in Lancashire say they have found a body. Katie Kenyon was last seen getting into a Ford Transit van in Burnley 8 days ago. Officers say formal identification is yet to take place, but the family of the 33-year-old mother of 2 have been informed of the discovery. TV, online and DAB+ radio, this is GB News. In just a moment, it's back to Nana Akua, so don't go anywhere.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's 2 questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you, or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
It's 37 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. So let's return to our Great British debate this hour. And I'm asking, was Tory MP Neil Parish right to resign for watching porn in the Commons? Now, the MP for Tiverton and Honiton in Devon was under investigation for allegedly watching pornography in the House of Commons. But this afternoon, he's actually resigned, admitting that watching porn, he watched it twice in the chamber. Once was by accident and the other intentionally. And the MP told the BBC it was a moment of madness and he was not proud of what he was doing. So I'm asking, was he actually right to resign for watching porn in the Commons? Before I speak to my panel, let's have a quick look at what you've been saying. Lisa says nobody should be on their phones in the chambers. They should be concentrating on the matter in hand. Adam says he shouldn't have resigned. He should have been sacked. Jan says they all should switch their phones off in the House of Commons. They're not paid by the taxpayer to play with their phones. Keep your thoughts coming. I sort of agree with you on there. Look, yeah, but let's see what my panel make of this. I'm joined now by comedian Leo Kearse and writer and actor Yanis Morgan. Right, Leo, what do you think?
I think, I think he did the brave thing in resigning. We don't see a lot of that in politics, where somebody just steps up to the mark and says, and he didn't even try to get away with it by saying it was an accident. He said the first time was an accident. He was trying to look at tractors and he accidentally stumbled across some pornography, which happens a lot when you're Googling tractors.
Well, it might have done, because there's mostly men that would be Googling tractors, probably, and therefore, and you get things sent to your phone.
I have never once come across pornography when I've been looking for tractors.
Have you ever looked for tractors?
Of course.
I think perhaps we should give you a little test to look for tractors and see what comes up.
No porn will come up. You've got to be specifically looking for porn for it to come up. But what I like was he admitted the second time, he stumbled across it the first time, but he said, I liked it, so I decided to have a longer look, and deliberately found it the second time. But there's a time and a place for pornography. I think if it's 11 p.m. in a travel lodge, then fine, you can look at pornography if you're on your own. But if you're sitting in a place of work with people around you, especially women, and especially when you're right in the week that the Parliament's been embroiled in a sexism scandal with Angela Rayner. Like, just don't be looking at porn on your phone.
Well, the thing is as well, Darren McCaffrey, who interviewed him before this all happened, he goes to the House of Commons very regularly, and they've all said that actually it's quite clear to see what people are doing in front of you, and apparently the benches are very uncomfortable, and you can see overhead what everyone's doing. So if you're going to be looking at pornography, lots of people will be overseeing what you're doing in any case. Yanis?
I absolutely disagree that I don't think he should have resigned. And I thought your guest, Mr. Baker, everything he said, I agreed with. There should have been due process.
Absolutely.
He didn't resign. Let's be truthful.
Well,
he was forced to go.
Under pressure.
He was forced to go because obviously you've got the by-elections coming up, local elections, and they didn't want it to reflect badly on the party. That's it. Where was the outrage when a sitting Prime Minister broke the law? Where was the outrage with Owen Paterson? These are big incidents in Parliament. Nothing.
There was far more outrage over Owen Paterson.
Eventually, but I'm saying now, we're all talking about it, watching porn. Due process. If he was working in a company, anywhere else, in a company, what would have happened? He would have been called in. Yes, there would have been some disciplinary action. He wouldn't have resigned over it. If he was doing it consistently, if he was doing it to influence, let's say he was deliberately trying to show the other female MPs. Now, that's been alluded to. He's had no right to defend himself against that.
I think it's more the sort of idiocy of looking at porn when, your screen is clearly visible. To other people.
It's a mistake.
I mean, so there's idiocy there, there's a moral issue, like looking at porn at work. There's the fact that he can't cope with the pressure. You say he's crumbled under a little bit of pressure. Well, you're not supposed to crumble under pressure when you're a politician.
Well, no, hang on.
Stand up to it.
Look, this is, but as Yanis said, and it's a point I made yesterday, what's the due process? Because why, this is literally trial by media.
Yeah.
And whilst obviously we are the taxpayer paying for them, we're the taxpayer paying for so many things in any case. So we can't put everybody on trial by media because we're paying for them. In this particular instance, I think, yes, I want to know what my MPs are doing, but I don't want it to upstage all the big deals and the big things that are happening during the day, like the cost of living crisis, like the huge problem with crime that we've, only able to solve 5.8% of the crimes. It's gone down from last time, which was only 6%, so it's not even a good figure there. So these are the things I'm saying. I want these issues to be dealt with in-house. They need some sort of HR or something that deals with these issues. They shouldn't come straight to the public light. And I think anyone sort of leaking this sort of information, it's like, look, we need you to focus on your jobs, really. And anyone, first of all, I agree, no mobile phones in the chamber.
Well, wait, he could be using or you could use mobile phones as a resource if there's an issue going on and you wanted to check something.
No mobile phones in the chamber.
Well, I think it could be used as a resource, as long as you're using it appropriately.
Yeah,
no, you can't police that, though.
Well, that's the thing. That's up to the MPs. But look, there needs to be... He should have had the right to defend himself. I agree, watching porn... Look, don't get me wrong, sitting in the Commons, watching porn, I do not agree with that.
No.
But should he have resigned?
No.
I don't agree.
He's a very good... Well, I mean, like,
Yeah, he's a good MP.
No one said that he wasn't a great MP, or he doesn't know really whether he was or he wasn't, and he's going to say that people vote for the party, but we'll find out with the local elections
you spoke to, she said she worked with him and she found him to be a good competent
Exactly.
MP.
So there are... And people are sort of saying he shouldn't have gone. And I think there needs to be... That wasn't me, that was Leo. Just in case you thought I managed to do that through my teeth. Sometimes people make all sorts of noises.
I think we just hope it came through your teeth.
Yeah, because sometimes I watch the show back and I hear... in between my monologues, I just want to tell you it's not me. It's actually them making noise around me. But you can't tell because it's usually on a picture or an image, But anyway, no, I think it seems to be this whole way this is turning into sort of witch hunt all the time, witch hunt. You did that. Oh, we're going to witch hunt you. You did that.
I think witch hunts were generally innocent of witchcraft. They weren't actually practising.
Hello, Leo. Hello, it's a turn.
This guy
it's a turn of phrase.
This guy genuinely was looking at porn.
But witch hunt is, this sort of multi-layered, multifaceted attack on one person for something that, whilst it's not acceptable, isn't really that bad and shouldn't result in them having to resign.
I've got an issue with because Norman Baker was saying, the expenses scandal was much worse than people were claiming. No,
100% it was.
Absolutely disagree. We underpay politicians in this country. No, I'm serious.
Wow. They got a £2 grand pay rise.
Sajid Javid had to take a 98%
Who the hell is
pay cut.
I'm Scottish.
Yeah.
Right.
He had to take a 98% pay cut to take his job as a politician. Like, if we pay peanuts, we're going to get...
Hang on, 90% from what, though? I mean, it's all very well you saying that. 90%...
in finance.
Yeah, in millions. So, look, most people watching this now, if you said, I'm going to pay you 84 grand, and actually we've just given you a £2 grand pay rise, would jump at that. In fact, I would say that 84 grand is a very good salary. I don't know what you're on, my friend.
I know what Leo's doing here. You're trying comedy material out. I tell you what, it's cracking. It's cracking.
Absolutely not. In Singapore, they pay every politician...
People get into it to serve society.
Yeah, absolutely, they should. And there shouldn't be an incentive to enter into corrupt deals like Owen Patterson's deal with Randall.
Well, hold on, hang on. Let me just say, first of all, you could look at that 84,000 and say that's not enough, but shall we add on the rest of it? Shall we add on the couple of thousand each month for any second home? Sorry. Shall we add on the fact that they don't really pay for anything in
How long do they get off for summer?
Shall we add on the expenses? My friend, it ends up being almost double what they're being paid. I'm sorry, but £80,000 is like their pocket money at the end of everything else.
It was openly known that expenses were there to make up for the shortfall in salary.
Yeah, OK, and it's not as if they've gone either. They still have expenses. Right, this show's nothing without you and your views. Let's welcome on our great British voice. This is your opportunity to be on the show. Tell us what you really think about the topics that we're discussing. Nigel Alderson is from Blackpool, so let's head over to Blackpool and find out what Nigel thinks. Nigel, welcome to the programme. Do you think that the MP, Neil Parish, should have resigned?
Yeah, he's got to, hasn't he? It's just one scandal after another. It just never ends. It's just been going on all the time. It won't be long before there's another scandal. The MPs have to realise they're moral leaders as well as leaders and get their acts together. And to be honest with you, I think there's far too many of them. I think we should have a lot less and pay them an awful lot more and try and attract better people. I don't think we're attracting the right people because of, the money side of it. So some better people earn a lot more money out in, I don't know, the city or wherever. But you're just not getting the right people. So that's what I think, anyhow.
You think more money will do it? Well, interesting. Well, you know a lot, thank you very much, and it's really interesting view that you have there. I think they get paid plenty of money, actually, and I don't think more money makes better people. Thank you very much, Nigel. Really good to talk to you. That's Nigel Olsen. He's there in Blackpool. He's one of our GB voices. He's a painter and decorator. See what he said? So he says more money. I don't think more money definitely.
He's a wise man.
Well, look at the head of the woman who's at the head of the NHS. It's a very badly run organisation. She's on £260,000 or so. I don't think more money works. Look at some nurses and dedicated people who get paid not as much, and they're passionate about what they do.
But going back to, you asked him a question, should he have gone? And your guest said, with the British voices, absolutely. What for?
Well, he says morally. He said morally.
Looking at porn at work.
Paul's not elite.
I'm sorry, just to click on a link. It depends. Look, to what degree? If you're sitting there day in, day out, spending hours looking at porn, I get that. To click on a link.
If he's got the cocoa butter and the Kleenex out already, then 100%.
OK, all right, we've gone down a dark alley. But look, what I'm saying is to click on a link, seeing some pornography, and then click it again. OK, it's not right. To lose your job over it and resign? No, I disagree.
Especially if it's just, well, OK, it wasn't for once, it was twice in the same space of time. I mean, look, it's a one-off. It's not like he's been seen doing this all the time and da-da-da. I think you have to put things in context. It's like somebody who steals a Ferrari and somebody who steals a piece of chewing gum.
The
chewing gum, the context is king. A piece of chewing gum, you can't go to prison for the same amount of time.
But the context is at work. So that makes it...
Yeah, but that's a disciplinary.
Nobody's saying that he's wrong.
Yeah, and he's been disciplined. He's resigned.
But not like that. I personally think it's too extreme.
Like Nigel said. Nigel is a very wise man. He said our leaders, our politicians are moral leaders.
That's because
as well as technocrats.
Break the law. So Boris breaking the law.
No, well, but that was
breaking it. That was breaking a silly law.
That's okay.
Also, he's a busy man.
No, that's a silly law.
Maybe we need cubicles.
Okay, but
Parliament.
Oh God, that'd be even worse. Can you imagine what they're doing in a cubicle? Let's move on. I don't think so. Right. So today I'm asking, was Tory MP Neil Parish right to resign for watching pornography? Lots of you have been getting in touch with your views. Simon says he shouldn't need to resign. He should have been sacked by the boss, Boris, for even using his mobile phone during business meetings. I would have been from my workplace. I understand, I hear you. Christine says, I also was looking for some tech details for Massey Tractors last year, and I didn't open anything but was presented with porn. I didn't close it straight away as I showed my partner in amazement. I'm a 67-year-old woman. It just shows that it does happen.
That's really interesting.
That's what I said. That's why I said, Leo.
I'm going to have a look right now.
Well, be careful.
You saw what she said. That's
Make sure your phone's on silent.
Anthony says Neil Parish shouldn't have resigned. I think that maybe a 3-day suspension would have been more than enough. Exactly. I mean, what about that person who kicked the cat and stuff like that, Kurt Zuma? I mean, people doing awful things are still carrying on.
He
with
wasn't
their
a
job.
politician.
No, but
he was just a footballer.
But he was again. He's like somebody that people would look up to as a footballer. I think it's a good
point.
I just searched for Massey Ferguson Tractors and just got Massey Ferguson Tractors.
Well, that's good for you, but maybe search a little bit more. Nana, I thought, and stop using your phone at work, by the way. Nana, I think that you are out of step on this one. Thank you very much. Well, listen, you're entitled to agree. This is what Elle says. Now, I think you're out of step on this one. This is a moral issue and we should see more resignations. Yes, but Elle, the point is, will there be anybody left if everybody who did something slightly wrong had to resign? To me, I just think that we have to be careful where we're going with this, because let he who is without sin cast the first stone. Stuart says, you've got to be kidding me. It's OK to watch porn and have Boris having a party. Who has been fined? Yes, he has been fined, but what about Keir Starmer? I mean, look, the list is just going on and on and on. If we do that, there's literally not going to be anyone left, which is actually not such a bad thing. There's also a poll up on Twitter today throughout the show asking, was Neil Parish right to resign for watching porn in the Commons? And currently, 74% of you say yes, he should have, and 26% of you say no. Well, listen, that poll will stay up throughout the show, and I'd love to hear your views. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. After the break, royal commentator Richard Fitzwilliams will join me in the studio to take a look back at what's been happening in the royal household. And this week, there's so much going on. First, let's get some weather.
Looking ahead to this evening's weather, and the UK is looking wet across much of Scotland and Northern Ireland, but mostly dry elsewhere. Let's take a look at the details. It will be a dry evening across southwest England, but clouds will increase from the north. A fairly mild evening with temperatures around 12 Celsius. Winds will also be light. Some late low sunshine across the London area in southeast England. A warm evening to come too, with temperatures hovering around 17 Celsius. A cloudy evening for Wales though, with outbreaks of rain across the north. Perhaps a few glimmers of hazy sunshine ahead of dusk towards Cardiff. Some bright skies for the Midlands too, especially to the south of Birmingham. Thicker cloud arriving to the north of the city. Temperatures beginning to fall as the thicker cloud moves in. Cloudy skies to end the day across northern England, with outbreaks of rain slowly edging southwards. The rain tending to be light and patchy though. Temperatures around 8 to 12 Celsius. The wet and breezy theme continues across much of Scotland through this evening. The rain turning heavy at times, mostly over the higher ground. 10 Celsius in Edinburgh. Cloudy and damp for most of Northern Ireland too, staying blustery along the north coast. Rain and drizzle leading to some murky conditions. Temperatures hovering around 10 or 11 Celsius. The cloud and rain will continue to move southwards overnight, but southeast England holding on to the dry weather. And that's how the weather's shaping up overnight and into tomorrow morning.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you, or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm still, of course, with my panel, comedian Leo Kearse and writer and actor Janus Morgan. But now it's time to take a look at what's been going on in the royal household this week. And on the agenda today was Prince Edward's royal tour to the Caribbean. And was it a success? Are Princess Anne and the Duchess of Cambridge the new royal power team? And the Queen returned to work after her 96th birthday. So I'm joined in the studio by royal commentator Richard Fitzwilliams. Richard, thank you very much for joining me. Right, let's start with Prince Edward and his royal tour of the Caribbean. Was it a success in the end? It didn't look so great. They seemed to have some issues, but on balance?
Well, I'm afraid on balance, it's something that the Palace and also the Foreign and Commonwealth Office will take back to the drawing board and make sure that this doesn't occur again, because almost every headline was negative in some form. They couldn't go to Grenada. They were advised against it by the Governor-General and the House of Representatives there, and also the Antigua and Barbuda Prime Minister made it pretty clear reparations was something he wanted to talk about. A republic was a distinct possibility. This is rather reminiscent of the Cambridges in Jamaica and the way the Prime Minister again tended to rather brusquely introduce that issue. every protest, even if there are only 10 protesters, as in St Lucia, or 15 in St Vincent and the Grenadines, they got headlines. It's a very, very real problem.
Well, I mean, it's so old school, though. I mean, it doesn't seem like... Is this something that people want to see, like people with lots of money and wealth parading around waving with their hands and things? It just seems very out of touch with and out of step with what's going on in the world, and why should they be commemorated in this way? It doesn't really fit, does it, anymore?
Well, you know, I'm not sure that I agree. I mean, I do think the Caribbean is a minefield. We won't have visits there by members of the royal family, I suspect, for quite a long time, at least not until the issue of a republic is settled in some of the countries which still have the Queen as member as head of state. But regarding world tours generally, they're worth their weight in gold. I mean, there's nothing like this use of soft power. The publicity is absolutely awesome. And remember, it's done with the host country agreeing.
Yeah.
But yes, there have been problems there.
Yeah, but it's a shame. But I like it when they go to places like Australia and places where they're really welcomed. I mean, it's always nice to see that. Well, let's move on to the first ever joint sort of event then. Talk to me about that.
Oh, this was Princess Anne and also Catherine, and this was the joint... They had patronages. With Princess Anne, it's the Royal College of Midwives. With Catherine, it's the Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. And this was on Wednesday, and it was pairing two of the most high-profile royals. Absolutely fascinating, because they're so wonderfully beneficial, what the work they do for the firm. And, of course, Princess Anne, low-key, very hard-working.
Love it. They're great together, aren't they? I want to quickly get in the Queen, though, because she's actually back to her royal duties now, isn't she?
No, back without her stick and seen... she's at Windsor after a brief break at Sandringham, where she was at Wood Farm for her 96th birthday, and receiving the President of Switzerland and looking on charming form.
Oh,
Absolutely
I'm so
wonderful.
pleased. Isn't she wonderful, the Queen? She's fabulous, isn't she? Oh, good, good. I'm glad to see her back in action and moving around, and she looked very well then, didn't she?
Absolutely, and of course now we're looking forward to the Platinum Jubilee celebrations. We're going to be a huge tree, apparently 70 foot outside Buckingham Palace. There's going to be the super bloom outside with fabulous flowers outside the Tower of London. All sorts of reports of exciting events. ITV, Alan Titchmarsh, and Tom Cruise will be hosting, yes.
And that's on Thursday, isn't it? All the celebrations. What days the celebrations are all on?
The celebrations are in early June. They're 4
I'm thinking
days.
about the elections. I'm thinking about the local elections. That's what I've got in my brain there. Listen, Richard, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. It's lovely to see you. That's Richard Fitzwilliams. He's a royal commentator. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. More to come in the next hour. So you're with me, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. For the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of those big topics hitting the headlines right now. But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
Good afternoon, it's 5 o'clock. I'm Tamsin Roberts in the GB Newsroom. The MP accused of watching pornography in the Commons has announced he'll resign. Neil Parish admitted looking at adult material on 2 occasions, once deliberately. A spokesperson for his local Conservative association thanked the MP for his service to his Devon constituency over the past 12 years and said they supported the decision. Speaking to the BBC, Mr Parish said it was a moment of madness and that he was not proud of his actions.
The situation was that funnily enough, it was tractors that I was looking at, and so I did get into another website that had a sort of very similar name, and I watched it for a bit, which I shouldn't have done. But my biggest crime, is that on another occasion I went in a second time.
And that was deliberately?
And that was deliberate.
And was that in the Select Committee or in the Commons chamber?
That was sitting, waiting to vote.
Former Conservative advisor Claire Pearsall told GB News she's not surprised Neil Parish has resigned.
He will be hounded by the media. He will also be hounded by his residents, quite rightly, who want an answer. But also, if he came back to the House of Commons when we return in a couple of weeks' time, I suspect that all questions will be directed to him about this behaviour. So I can understand why he's done it, but I'm disappointed because it means now that there is no investigation. And I do worry that no action will ever get taken to change the atmosphere that we have.
The government is investigating reports an injured British man is being held captive by Russia. It's after an unverified video emerged, reportedly showing Andrew Hill being interrogated by Russian forces after being captured in Ukraine. The Foreign Office is urgently seeking more information and is supporting his family members. Police in Ukraine say they found a mass grave containing the bodies of 3 men who they say had been bound, gagged and tortured. It's after the US accused Russian President Vladimir Putin of brutality and depravity in his 2-month invasion of the country. A Pentagon spokesman says violent and cruel acts have been committed against innocent civilians with utter disregard for their lives. The brother of Kiev's mayor, Vladimir Klitschko, says he's seen evidence of Russian war crimes in Ukraine.
Tortured, executed bodies of civilians with their hands tied behind their back, on their knee, and executed with the headshots. I've seen it with my own eyes, many, hundreds of dead civilians. It's just horrifying.
Well, Ukraine's defence ministry says Russia is increasing the intensity of their offensive in the east of the country. They claim that residents in the region of Kharkiv and neighbouring areas were being forcibly taken to Russia by Moscow's forces. The city of Mariupol is also still under siege, with Russian forces focusing on the steelworks, where hundreds of troops and civilians are stranded. Residents of the southern port city have spoken of the total devastation of their homes.
It was my home, or what's left of it after the shellings. Everything burned, so now I have become homeless. I have nowhere to go. Now I live in my friend's place. He sheltered me for some time. Everything is gone. All that's left is the toilet, door and hallway. Nothing more.
Tell me, was it a necessity to bomb civilians with such bombs? You have to be a fanatic to do it. No shame, no conscience, no feeling of proportion, nothing. They made the whole block homeless in old age.
Police searching for a woman who went missing a week ago in Lancashire say they found the body of a woman. Katie Kenyon was last seen getting into a Ford Transit van in Burnley 8 days ago. Officers say formal identification is yet to take place, but the family of the 33-year-old mother of 2 have been informed of the discovery. The Met Police is launching a new bid to overturn a High Court ruling which found officers breached the rights of organisers of the Sarah Everard Vigil last year. Scuffles broke out at the event between police and some of those taking part in the vigil. Reclaim These Streets has criticised the force for spending more taxpayer money after Scotland Yard said it would take the case to the Court of Appeal. However, the Met says its appeal focuses on decisions and communications with the group ahead of the event. This is GB News. We'll bring you more news as it happens. Now, though, it's back to Nana.
So it's just coming up to 5 minutes after 5 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. Now, for the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of those big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me today is comedian Leo Kearse and also writer and actor Yanis Morgan. Still to come in a few moments, I'll be talking with my difficult conversations. Today I'm speaking to a woman who's defied doctors and basically she was given only just 3 months to live in 2006. She's gone on to found an organisation working to cure cancer. And I'll also be speaking to someone who's helped develop a cell sorter treatment for the disease. The Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking what matters most to you in your local community. 200 local authorities across Britain are holding elections this Thursday. With national politics dominated by the cost of living crisis, Partygate and now Beergate, it'll be a chance for you to vote on local issues which impact your everyday life. So I want to find out what matters most to you in your local community. Get in touch. You can email gbviews@gbnews.uk or tweet me at gbnews. So now it's time for difficult conversations. Now, imagine being diagnosed with cancer and told that you had just 6 months to live, only for your time to be slashed to 3 months. Well, that's exactly what happened to Sandra Hamilton when she contracted non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in 2006. However, she fought the illness and is still here 16 years on, defying doctors throughout. She went on to create the organisation Cure Cancer at the with the University College of London Institute. It's now using state-of-the-art equipment to give better treatment to cancer patients. And I'm pleased to say that Sandra joins me in the studio alongside Jason Ray, who's a research associate at University College London. And also, you're in the middle, I don't know.
Julia.
Julia, sorry, Julia, for some reason you're not on there. Now, Sandra, I definitely want to start with you and I want to find out a little bit about your story. So talk me through, because this is many, many years ago, you were diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma. Can you tell us what is that disease and what was it that made you wonder and think that you maybe had something wrong?
Well, there are 10 sort of tells that you can do, from fatigue, loss of weight, heart palpitations, nervousness, etc. The issue is, it's how do you tell your children? How do you say to them that you've been given a death sentence? Because it's all relative. Everybody reacts differently. I was uber fit. So it's very difficult to pinpoint. So when they told me that I had 6 months and then I had 3 months, I go, yeah, on your bike, I'll die on my terms, not your terms. And I have had treatment since 2007, and non-Hodgkin's follicular lymphoma normally takes you out in 17 months, like it did my dad. So it's a hard one. Do you tell them the truth? Just come out and say it. I'm a great believer of just getting it out there, but you can always find a positive spin if you want.
Wow. But in terms of, so for you, it was fatigue. Was there anything else? Was there hair loss? Was there...
No. No. I had lumps coming and going, but they came and they went. It wasn't until I went to the doctor and she said to me, shock surgery, fantastic, and she said to me, OK, Mrs Hamilton, you keep coming back for the same points. I need to look, be quiet. And she went through them. Next thing I know, she'd made me an appointment for the next day. This was on the Saturday, and by the Monday I was on the operating table.
Wow. And where were these lumps? Were they under the arm? Were they just...
The one under my arm, yes, but actually it was the one in my groin. But, and excuse the language, you go looking down there. If my husband hadn't have said, actually, hold a minute, because we went looking, he found the big lump in my groin. Yeah.
Really? And what's the treatment for it then?
Well, this is it. There's no one specific treatment. I've been put through the mill, also my body's been put through the mill, because people think of chemotherapy, it's one treatment, it's not. There's rituximab, the MAB family, there's a lot of treatments. Then you've got R-CHOP, and you've got stem cell. So since 2007, my body has really gone through it. 2015, they said, that's it. Your spleen's about to pop, or we're going to do stem cell, but we're not sure if your chances are coming out the other side.
So you did a stem cell treatment. Is this where they pretty much clean out your body and then give you fresh cells, and
yes.
your body then regenerates?
Yeah, think of it as a computer with a virus. You shut it down, you wipe it clean, and you give it a new program, and theoretically, things go back to normal. My body decided it didn't like normal cells because it'd been running on ill cells, broken cells for too long. So they basically at one point turned around and said to my husband, you better call in the rabbi, the priest, whoever you want, because she's not going to make it over the next 3 days. Funny, somewhere in my subconscious, I heard that and came round. Plus, I signed a DNR, so that I've had a hard time doing that.
Really? So you've really been at the brink. You keep coming back. You keep fighting this. And talk to me about your charity then, because throughout this, you've not only just been fighting for your own survival, but also helping others as well. So talk to me about.
Yes. So basically, I came on board and we chose to work with UCL and the research team because they straddle two worlds, the world of the researcher and the world of the doctor. So they can take what they learn from the research centre, the laboratories, and bring it to help tailor-make treatments so that a person doesn't have to go through so much. And that's where Jason's got to come in and speak about the equipment. And
So talk to me. So you've now, during the whole process of you being ill, you've set up a charity, Cure Cancer, the aim being to actually cure the cancer rather than actually masking it or looking after the symptoms itself.
Yes.
And and how did you create the partnership with James and Julia? And
Right. So Julia came on board. We'd known each other for many years, but Julia came on board because when I have treatment, I'm no fun to be around. For 48 hours after my immunotherapy once a month, I can just barely string a sentence. And if anybody knows me well, they say I speak Sandra at the best of times. My head's befuddled. What's in here doesn't come out there. And I talk, most people say Sandra speak. Julia is very good.
Translate, basically. Yes.
And she makes English of what I write.
Well, you're making perfect sense now. To be fair, she's making sense.
Yeah. But I've now been told I've now got another cancer, which is now running alongside of my NHL.
So what's this other cancer?
First cell plasma dyscrasia smouldering myeloma.
So what does that mean?
It's another form of blood cancer, but this one is more, I think, related to the bones. I'll know next week when I see my specialist. They've had the PET scans. I'm waiting on those results.
Well, you've worked for him, and you're incredible, Sandra. So we'll keep going with this because So you set up this charity. Talk to me a little bit more about what your organisation does. So you work with UCL.
Yeah. So I work at the Cancer Institute UCL. So we do a lot of academic research. We look into cancers like Sandra's, but also other blood cancers. Our lab actually has a particular focus on childhood cancers. And what we try to do is to take what is a really crude way of doing treatment, which is chemotherapy, and we try to find more clever ways, more targeted ways to treat cancers. So Sandra's charity has supported us by buying specific pieces of equipment.
Mm-hmm.
So we try to be as cutting edge as we can in our research. Cancer is very complex. And what we try to do is to understand that complexity. And in order to do that, we have to do some quite complicated experiments. So Sandra has helped us to do that by providing the equipment. So just to give you an example, the Cure Cancer have helped us to buy what's called a cell sorter or a flow cytometer. This particular type of equipment that takes cells, so it'll take your cancer, take all the cells, and it will sort them into different kinds of cells. And what we've come to understand over the last couple of decades is that your cancer is not just one type of cell, it's many types of cells within. And what you come to understand as you look at more and more patients is that what kills cancer patients is the fact that we never quite get rid of all of the cancer cells. So there's always a few that hang around. So we see it as our job to understand what are those few cells that survive the chemotherapy and to find more clever ways of targeting those cells and killing them. So to do that, you've really got to pull apart the cancer, break it down into its individual components, understand what all of those components are, what makes them tick, and to find more clever ways, more targeted ways of killing those cells. Coming in and hitting a cancer patient with chemotherapy is really a sledgehammer. So you're just trying to wipe out everything in that person that divides, all their dividing cells, and that makes them very, very ill. What we'd really like to do is to find a way to target just the cancer cells, leave alone your healthy cells, let the patients have a better outcome, much less toxic therapies.
God, I don't think anyone's ever explained it that succinctly, ever. Really, that makes it very clear to me, I see. So the cell sorter is a thing that Sandra's charity has raised to do that.
Many pieces of equipment.
Just one piece of equipment among many. So if you take yourself through a virtual experiment, we get cells that come directly from patients who've been diagnosed with leukemia, and we want to understand what are the cells that make up that leukemia. So the first thing that they go to is the cell sorter that Sandra has provided us with, and that allows us to divide the cells into different compartments. And we know a lot about what those compartments are. Those cells then literally get separated into different tubes. You take those different tubes off to the next piece of equipment, and Sandra's helped us to buy pieces of equipment which then allow us to look at the genes that each of those individual cells express. And without going too deep into it, that allows us then to say what are the properties of those individual cells that make up your cancer. And what we're trying to understand is if you look at those cells that are surviving the chemotherapy, the ones that are really hanging around there, coming back and killing cancer patients in relapse, as the diagnosis would be, what are the properties of those cells and how can we treat them.
And have you come to more answers as to the properties of those cells yet?
We have. We had one paper published just last year, and that was looking at the cells which survive chemotherapy in blood cancers. And it was quite interesting. So we know that these cells have different genetics, so they've got different mutations within the individual cells, and we actually guessed that that's why some of the cells come back and give you a relapsed cancer later. That turned out not to be the case. So what it turns out is that some of these cells are basically deep asleep. They're just sitting there, not dividing, fast asleep. Chemotherapy doesn't kill them. So those are the cells that are surviving the treatment, and they can do that over a period of years.
Wow.
So those are the cells that come back and give relapse to the cancer patients. We have gone on to characterize those cells, again, using the equipment that Cure Cancer has bought for us. And we now know a lot more about what makes those cells tick. The next phase will be to try and find out what is the drug that might kill those cells.
Wow, that's absolutely incredible. It's fascinating, isn't it, Sandra?
Well, this is why we came to the researchers, because they talk English. They don't talk what I call...
doctor speak.
Thank you.
Yeah. Exactly what you mean. You think, what have you just told me? Is it bad or is it good? I just need to know which one it is.
Yeah, and which category do we fall in, and where can they help us?
Well, listen, Sandra, it's such an inspiration. So your charity, you set this up whilst you've been going through this treatment yourself to help others. Does it help you in any way at all?
No.
No.
Unfortunately, no. But years go on, technology goes on. My biggest concern and my biggest fear is now that I have this new cancer, they said I might not need treatment for 5 years. But because it's taken me 7 years to get where I am, people don't know me. I used to ride 3 times a week, I swam twice a week, and I did yoga. I'm lucky if I can walk 1/4 of a mile without huffing and puffing. Can my body take any more? And this is the issue. And can it take the all-round splatter effect where they just chuck the book at me? I don't know. So I need sustainability, and this is why I wanted Julia to sort of take on from there.
Yeah, Sandra's very concerned about that, obviously, because in years to come, she doesn't know whether she's going to have the ability to continue raising the funds by putting on the events that we normally do when we, you know, to raise the money for the equipment. So we have the idea of £1 for 1 million. Hopefully people will donate £1 each, and we can purchase. Hopefully we
more equipment.
Well, no.
This
we
is
want
where...
sustainability. Sorry, we want to purchase a property, and then the income from that property will then purchase the medical research equipment that the Institute will...
Well, listen, Sandra, look, we wish you all the best on your journey. If people want to find out more about you and, of course, about the charity that you set up, where would they find information?
They need to go to www.curecancer-ucl.org, and a big, huge thanks to MidMeds, who get us the equipment almost trade. And the issue that we've got is, Jason says, as he lives from one grant to the next, we want to be able to stop that panic so they can carry on whether we're here or not.
Well, the research that you're doing sounds inspirational and genius, and I really wish you all the best, and I hope people support you, Sandra. Wish you all your best in your journey. Julia, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nana.
It's been a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Inspirational people indeed. That was, of course, Jason Ray. He's a research associate at the University College London, also Julia South, and she's a coordinator for Cure Cancer at UCL Cancer Institute, and Sandra Hamilton. Coming up, it is the Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking what matters most to you in your local community. Many of us will be heading to the polls to vote in council elections in Britain on Thursday, but with national politics dominated by the cost of living crisis, Partygate, Beergate and so on, it'll be a chance for you to vote on local issues which impact your everyday life. So I want to ask, what local issues are most important to you? First, let's get some weather.
Looking ahead to this evening's weather, and the UK is looking wet across much of Scotland and Northern Ireland, but mostly dry elsewhere. Let's take a look at the details. It will be a dry evening across southwest England, but clouds will increase from the north. A fairly mild evening with temperatures around 12 Celsius. Winds will also be light. Some late low sunshine across the London area in southeast England. A warm evening to come too, with temperatures hovering around 17 Celsius. A cloudy evening for Wales though, with outbreaks of rain across the north. Perhaps a few glimmers of hazy sunshine ahead of dusk towards Cardiff. Some bright skies for the Midlands too, especially to the south of Birmingham. Thicker cloud arriving to the north of the city. Temperatures beginning to fall as the thicker cloud moves in. Cloudy skies to end the day across northern England, with outbreaks of rain slowly edging southwards. The rain tending to be light and patchy though. Temperatures around 8 to 12 Celsius. The wet and breezy theme continues across much of Scotland through this evening. The rain turning heavy at times, mostly over the higher ground. 10 Celsius in Edinburgh. Cloudy and damp for most of Northern Ireland too, staying blustery along the north coast. Rain and drizzle leading to some murky conditions. Temperatures hovering around 10 or 11 Celsius. The cloud and rain will continue to move southwards overnight, but southeast England holding on to the dry weather. And that's how the weather's shaping up overnight and into tomorrow morning.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you, or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
So 24 minutes after 5 o'clock, this is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua and I'm still with my panel, comedian Leo Kearse and also actor and writer Yanis Morgan. Right, it's time for our Great British Debate this hour, and I'm asking what matters most to you in your local community. On Thursday, 200 local authorities across England, Wales and Scotland will be holding their elections for local councillors. With Labour leading in the national polls, many are suggesting that it could be a bad night for the Tories. But the elections will be fought on local rather than national issues. And I want to find out what will swing your vote and what you care about in your community. But first, I'm joined by the independent statistician Jamie Jenkins to find out what may sway the votes at the local elections on Thursday. Jamie, I'm surprised I said it. I'm not going to repeat it. I never say statistician. I've done it. Well, I want to hear... Well, we often hear about local elections being fought on local issues, but what things specifically influence the way people actually vote?
Yeah, afternoon. I think probably worth just reminding people that for a general election, you normally get about 67% turnout nationally across the country. And for local elections, in part because you don't see live debates with the Prime Minister and the opposition parties kind of all over the TV, and then it's kind of on the news day in, day out. You don't get such the kind of turnout. Last time we had about 34%. So it's going to be the vast majority of people aren't probably going to turn out. I'd encourage people to go out and vote. I think it is worth reminding people, as you've been doing on the show, that these are about local issues. What you're trying to do here is elect people to kind of represent on local councils or the community councils. So it is all about local issues. People who are promising that through election material that they can sort the cost of living crisis specifically by taxing, for example, energy companies. These aren't the powers that local authorities have. But you can't get away, Nana, from the Partygate scandals, the kind of this talk about what was going on with the Labour Party in the north in Durham last year. These issues will cut through because it'll go one or two ways. There'll be some people think I'm not going to bother voting, and it might be that some people who were a Tory or a Labour voter in the past might have thought, well, actually, I'm going to go and vote for somebody else. So I'd encourage the kind of the viewers to the show to look at what material you've got, think of the local issues and who's going to basically best represent what you think.
So in terms of the statistics then, because Boris Johnson made this wonderful speech about how if you want your council to do well, you're better off voting for a Conservative council because those ones do better. Does that replay in the statistics?
Well, what you get is obviously it varies significantly across the country, and it's based on historical stuff as well, Nana, because council tax is set obviously locally. Some councils have got a higher council tax in one area than you've got in another area, and it depends on how the finances of the councils have been run over the years. And so I think that's going to be a critical part of all of this. What you've got to kind of remember as well, that these do have an impact on national elections as well, because say, for example, whichever party has a good evening at the local elections and get more and more people elected, then that's kind of more activists that can help support the party for the national elections as well. So that's why they are quite important to these parties in terms of putting things forward. You tend to find for the local elections as well, when you start looking at the kind of the candidacies, you do get a lot more kind of independent candidates for these, because obviously they're about people who are in the heart of their communities fighting for those things. And remember, the things that do really come up when it comes to the local issues are things, and remember what the local authority do. They obviously provide the services such as gyms, leisure centres, things like the kind of the libraries that you've got in there, and social care is a big part of it as well. So they are provided by the local areas. So I think those are the factors that are going to sway it. Generally, the barometer of what's been going on nationally with the kind of the main parties will have a big impact. But you sometimes get, if some people are frustrated because things were promised in the last 3 or 4 years in a local area and they haven't been delivered, that can get people out to try and go and vote, to try and make some changes.
So roughly then, so you do statistics, right? So I'm just wondering, in terms of numbers-wise, percentage-wise, what is it predicted that the Conservative Party will lose or the Labour Party gain, or vice versa? What are they suggesting?
Well, the thing is with these, Nana, they can change quite dramatically overnight. So the kind of the stuff that's been coming out with Keir Starmer and having pizzas and beers in the north could have an impact there. I think the important thing is that you normally find in these kind of elections that the current government, when they've won, remember Boris won the general election in 2019, you normally find the mid-term during kind of a national government that they sometimes get people who lose some support because they're halfway through their term, and they tend to find that the opposition parties do well. But the last local elections were fought actually when Theresa May was in power, and the Labour Party did pretty well there. So it's going to be difficult potentially to build on what the Labour Party did last time. But with the way the current things are going on at the moment, you might see the Lib Dems creep through and pick up a lot of local councils, and they do seem to be doing pretty well in Tory areas when we've had some local elections over the last couple of years where there's been some kind of need for those local elections. So they might creep in. And remember, Boris won kind of well in the north in those kind of all those old Labour seats in the general election. Whether or not those councils will go from Labour to Tory, I very much doubt. So it's going to be a very interesting way. It's very difficult to predict this one because there's so much change over the last couple of years.
Well, listen, thank you very much, Jamie. Jamie Jenkins is an independent statistician and a political commentator. Right, now it's time to hear directly from you about what matters most to you in your community. So let's go over to one of our great British voices and let's find out what they have to say. Let's go over to Cowbridge now in Wales. We've got Lauren Evans there. Lauren, thank you for joining us this afternoon. Lauren, so what matters most to you in your community?
So we've got 2 ice cream parlours currently in 2 different counties, one in Bridgend and one in the Vale of Glamorgan. And we have had a really rough 2 years due to the pandemic. Like everyone, the hospitality industry has been hit extremely hard. We are desperate for some help when it comes to staffing. There's a massive shortage across the industry. I don't know whether it's because people don't see it as a career, a safe career. I don't know. But it is something that we desperately need help with. We also need help with electricity. Commercial electricity needs to be capped. We desperately need some help with that. And business rates on our local high streets and in our seaside towns are extremely high, and we need some help with that, like they did in the pandemic. So there's many issues that need to be addressed, and in order to help our independent businesses stay on our high streets and in our towns.
Will what's happening in Parliament at the moment, the way the politicians are behaving, is that likely to influence the way that you will vote in your local election?
No comment. No, not really, to be quite honest with you. No.
No, it's not going to.
I will be turning up to my polling station, though. That's a sure thing.
And it's not going to change the way you vote, and doesn't make any difference to you. But what matters to you is the things that are local to your community. Do you wish that the politicians would speak more about sort of the issues that are affecting the people rather than themselves?
Exactly. We need our high streets need a lot of support, a lot of help. We are battling with these big out of town shopping centres with available parking. We just really need help and support. So that's a massive pull to where I will be voting this week.
Well, listen, Lauren, thank you very much for talking to us. That's Lauren Evans. She's there in Wales telling me what matters to her. Well, you're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. Coming up, we'll continue our Great British debate, and I'm asking what matters most to you in your local community. You'll hear the thoughts of my panel, comedian Leo Kearse, and also writer and actor Yanis Morgan. But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
It's 5:33. I'm Tamsin Roberts in the GB newsroom. The MP accused of watching pornography in the Commons has announced that he'll resign. Neil Parish admitted looking at adult material on 2 occasions, once deliberately. A spokesperson for his local Conservative association thanked the MP for his service and said they supported the decision. Speaking to the BBC, Mr Parish said it was a moment of madness and that he was not proud of his actions.
The situation was that funnily enough, it was tractors that I was looking at, and so I did get into another website that had a sort of very similar name, and I watched it for a bit, which I shouldn't have done. But my biggest crime, is that on another occasion I went in a second time.
And that was deliberately?
And that was deliberate.
And was that in the Select Committee or in the Commons chamber?
That was sitting, waiting to vote.
Police in Ukraine say they found a mass grave containing the bodies of 3 men who they say have been bound, gagged and tortured. It's after the US accused Russian President Vladimir Putin of brutality and depravity in his 2-month invasion of the country. A Pentagon spokesman says violent and cruel acts have been committed against innocent civilians with utter disregard for their lives. Meanwhile, Ukraine's defence ministry says Russia is increasing the intensity of their offensive in the east of the country. They claim that residents in the region of Kharkiv and neighbouring areas were being forcibly taken to Russia by Moscow's forces. Police searching for a woman who went missing a week ago in Lancashire say they found a body. Katie Kenyon was last seen getting into a Ford Transit van in Burnley 8 days ago. Officers say formal identification is yet to take place, but the family of the 33-year-old mother of 2 have been informed of the discovery. TV, online and DAB plus radio, this is GB News. In just a moment, it's back to Nana.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you, or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
If you just joined me, where have you been? It's coming up to 38 minutes after 5 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. Right, let's return to our Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, what matters most to you in your local community? Local authorities all across Britain are holding elections this Thursday, including every single council seat in London, with national politics dominated by the cost of living crisis and Partygate and now Beergate. It'll be a chance for you to vote on a local issue that will impact your life, your everyday life. So I want to find out what matters most to you in your community. Before we speak to my panel, let's have a quick look at what you've been saying. Dan says, sort out the roads. Graham says the cost of council tax, mine, is £3,006. Wow. That is a lot, isn't it, per year? My highest annual bill, and it's increased every year by the maximum the council can. Andrea says, sort out the feral kids vandalising stuff. That's probably a bit more tricky. Jackie says, being able to get parking permits for your own street. Yeah, isn't that a nightmare? Parking. Seen the arguments that are caused by that. Well, let's see what my panel make of that. I'm joined by comedian Leo Kearse and also writer and actor Yanis Morgan. What do you think, then? I'm going to start with you, Yanis, actually. What do you think of these local elections? I can't remember his name now. The councillor was here, the ex-Liberal Democrat MP was here. Norman. Yeah. Yes, Norman was saying that people vote nationally, whatever their party is, they'll vote in a local manner. Yeah. But that's what I do, but some people don't.
I think because of the turnout, and actually it was interesting when your guest was talking about how the turnout, 38% in local elections. I think people are driven more by if there are issues that are really compelling and affecting their lives. We heard about council tax, that's a big one. Roads. Where we live in Hertfordshire, the big debate there, because I was doing some research before the show, a lot of people were talking about the big developments that are coming up, like 1,000 houses on Greenbelt land. Yeah. So that's something that could drive voters out and determine where they place their votes.
It's interesting to see what the others are saying, the other candidates are saying about what they're going to do about those things. Leo?
Yeah, I mean, I think local elections can sometimes be used to sort of give the ruling party, the party that's in power, a clip round the ear if they haven't been performing. But I think this time people will be voting on local issues that matter to them, which tend to be crime and the economy and the environment. By which I mean, bins and streets and things like that, not wind farms and saving the rainforest.
The wind farms are actually quite devastating for some of the sea life. I was reading about that. It's terrible.
How can the fish get up that high?
Well, no, it's not. Well, it's the little crabs. Crabs are getting lobsters and
lobsters.
Lobsters.
I've got to care about lobsters now. It doesn't even have a face.
Lobsters are being deformed on the cables.
They're already deformed. They're lobsters.
Don't be so horrible. They have got face. They've got little eyes on the side.
We digress. No, but anyway, I think
you're on stalks. You could talk.
My eyes aren't on stalks. The rest of me is.
The rest of me is on stalks. But anyway, local elections then. I mean, do you think people pay attention to what's going on locally and what the different councils and candidates are?
I think some people do, but having worked for the police and having worked in local authorities, you do get less of a turnout, and it's more the sort of people who've got time to care, if you know what I mean. So a lot of people are just too busy with the day-to-day life to care. But, I think there needs to be more participation in local government. And I think it would be great for there to be more focus on local government and to reduce some of the incompetence and laziness. I mean, that's what turned me right-wing, working in local government.
Right-wing?
Yeah.
No.
When you see the amount of waste and the amount of laziness, it's insane.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, and also I think there's a slight entitlement to a lot of people who work within the government-type buildings, so a lot of the civil servants and people like that. I do feel a sense of, and you get some real jobs worth in there as well. Not all of them, but you do. And I just think, it's sort of like a job for life. That ethos is still there. Yeah. And then there becomes a lethargy in the performance of the job itself. And I find that quite irritating. And therefore, often with me, local elections don't really mean much. But I would like them to spend more time telling us specifically what they're going to do differently to the other candidates, because what power do they have?
But is that up to us to ask for our candidates to explain?
Well, yes, it is up to, but it's up for them to provide it.
I understand that,
want to increase the turnout. Do you think they don't want to increase the turnout?
I think it's stages in your life. Because when you're sort of in your 20s, you're not really affected to such a degree. When you have a family and council tax is a big issue, roads, getting parking, suddenly you're looking at all of this and you want to get out and have your voice. So that I would imagine if they looked at the statistics, slightly older demographic, like you were saying, more time to vote.
Do you think that actually, and I was sort of alluding to the question earlier, that people, they don't really want to have a higher turnout because this sort of keeps the status quo? If there's not that many people coming, it's probably not going to change around much.
I think a low turnout can be dangerous because, I mean, certainly we've seen in devolved governments, like a low turnout means that somebody, a fringe issue that isn't important to the majority of people but really motivates a small number of people can then really, have a big impact in those elections. And so the tail starts wagging the dog.
It's a very interesting point, that, isn't it? Because, people need to sort of get out and start finding out what is going on and what the different candidates are actually offering and the differences between the parties, instead of being swayed by just what's going on the national level, because that is what Norman was saying, that people will vote for whatever national party they support without necessarily looking locally.
But do you think it's cultural? Like when the general election was happening, everyone was saying, look, get out and vote, and there was a real movement to get youngsters out to have their say. Local elections, there doesn't seem to be that same drive.
Yeah.
No,
people don't comment. If you didn't vote in national elections, like friends and family, you're like, why haven't you voted? Local elections, meh.
Yeah.
Do you think also because of the national picture, because obviously we were talking, people going on about Partygate and saying, will it affect Boris and everything? Now Beergate's coming out. We've just had an MP resigning for watching pornography. We've had Angela Rayner and the legs business, and whether she was doing it all in the best possible taste or not. Remember Kenny Everett? She wasn't compared to that. I mean, that would have been...
Yeah, I like how other people's reference was Basic Instinct, but your reference is Kenny Everett.
Well, I think that's because I think she sort of mentioned it herself, really.
Yeah.
I mean, but, hey, I'm just saying that's what I've heard. But, yeah, she wouldn't compare herself to that, would she? But... but do you think that that's going to sway the way people are actually voting? Or do you think now there's so much in it that the Labour have done that, the Conservative, that actually now we're so confused we'll just have to try and read what they're actually telling us?
I think there is an argument to say it will sway if somebody is not informed on the policies of their local MPs. It's how much research you do. If you don't really know what's going on, then you're just going to OK, I'll go for status quo, whether I'm Tory or Labour,
Well, let's see, because I've been asking what matters most to you in your local community, and lots of you have been getting in touch with your thoughts. And George says, potholes. I know. Why don't they just relay the whole stretch of road instead of making the whole road a patchwork quilt? Probably because of the money, isn't it? And also, well, they don't want to. Steve says, I think that the national issues will creep into this election. Partygate has really cut through, and I think it has stained the Conservatives, although I take your point that Labour might be just as bad. You see, that is, it's like Juliet says, I think that the council tax the council can only have a limited impact on the local area. It is people, businesses and charities that make your area better, not the local government, which is basically just a chance for egomaniacs to argue and get one up on each other. Point of order. I was thinking of Jackie Weaver. We should have got Jackie Weaver on talking, actually, now I think about it. It should have been great. Timothy says, I care about the bins. Mine haven't been collected for 2 weeks.
Wow.
And our drive stinks. Yeah, it would do. That's bad.
2 weeks?
But we have a rotation system for 2 weeks as well. The black bin gets rotated, for every 2 weeks. But they're big, Sometimes you get the small, thin sort of black wheelie bin, or you get the big wheelie bin. When I was in another council, it was the thin wheelie bin that was full within moments. Now I've got the fat.
You need a degree to work out what bins to put out.
I know, because they change it between councils as well. Yeah. On one, the brown one was the grass, and the green one was the paper, and then this time it's like salt and vinegar and ready salted. Yeah. You don't know which one. There should be blue. Which one should be blue?
The salt and vinegar.
No, it's cheese and onion, isn't it?
Blue used to be salt and vinegar, and that makes sense because salt is blue.
No, it's cheese and onion was blue.
Cheese and onion is now blue. But Walkers did that. They went rogue.
I don't know what happened there. Anyway, it's a bit like the bins. That's where we're going with this. Darren says, I live in London and will be voting for Labour. And no, I'm not your classic young member of the metropolitan elite. I'm an old geezer. I think Sadiq Khan is doing a good job and want there to be more cycle lanes. Wow.
Hopefully he wasn't stabbed halfway through writing that.
No, don't say that. No, he doesn't mean that. Ignore that.
No, because Sadiq Khan, knife crimes just rocketed up under Sadiq Khan. I'm amazed that anybody can look at London and say...
Someone being stabbed is a bit much, actually, at this time of day, Leah. So take that back. Right, so the Transport Secretary, Grant Shapps, has invited MPs to find the noisiest streets in England and Wales. The 4 areas that come out on top will take part in the trial of noise cameras, which will fine drivers for having excessively loud cars. It's part of a bid to banish the boy racer and cut down on noise pollution. Let's see what my panel think of that. Comedian Leo Kearse and writer and actor Yanis Morgan. Leo, I'll start with you.
Well, they're talking about fines of £50 for people who rev their engines and drive down residential streets with these noisy cars. I don't think a fine of £50 is going to do it. That's the price of a tenth of a wing mirror. I think what we need to do is, I've seen these anti-tank weapons being distributed to Ukraine. I think we should keep some back. And you can phone up the police and say, listen, I've got one of these boys. And then you can just lean out the bedroom window with one of these things, pop it through the sunroof. I'm not being silly. This is how we need to deal with these issues.
Space Invaders. They're playing that silly game on the Atari years ago. No, that's a very silly suggestion. You obviously don't mean that.
That is, I do mean it.
I hope this is something that's rolled out on a more expensive level. Obviously, they're just starting out. So I've got a little boy, 16 months. We try and put him to bed. And then you get a boy racer whizzing by and waking him up after you spent 2 hours trying to get him to sleep. There is nothing more frustrating. So your perception changes at different stages in your life. It wouldn't have bothered me when I was in my 20s. Now I've got a real issue with noisy motorbikes, noisy cars.
You know what you need to do? You need to have a noisy house, so then they get used to all the noise, like my house. And that's true, that's what you do.
Just drive them around in a Porsche all day.
No, you have a noisy house, and you put them to sleep in the noise, and then they learn to sleep in noise, and noise becomes their friend. That's what my parents did with me.
This is good advice. You're the one making the noise.
Exactly, mostly, but I'm a very noisy person myself. But my family are pretty noisy. I don't know whether that's a surprise.
There's no reason for cars. There's some cars out there, motorbikes, they are so loud. I mean, ridiculously loud. There's no reason for it.
What do you think, Leo? Oh, no, hang on. You've just said about the anti-tank...
Yeah, I'm still sticking with the bazooka method.
Yeah,
If somebody can come up with a better solution.
I wish I hadn't asked. I shouldn't have asked again. Right. Well, let's see. Noisy Cars, what do you think of that? But now it's time for our quick fire quiz. And this is the part of the show where I test my panel on some of the other stories that are hitting the headlines right now. And it's his best out of 4 today. I'm with writer and actor Yanis Morgan and also comedian Leo Kirst. They've both got buzzers to press. And when they know the answer to the question, then they press the buzzer. Leo, let me hear your buzzer, please. And Yanis, your buzzer? Right, so let's do question 1. Okay. Right, Heinz have revealed special editions of HP sauce and salad cream for the Platinum Jubilee. But what are they called? Is it A, Royal and Spicy and Queenie's Salad Sauce? Is it B, HM Sauce and Salad Queen? Or is it C, Great British Brown and Her Majesty's Egg Sauce? Leo?
Was it A?
Is it A? Yanis, what do you think?
C.
You think it's C? Let's have a look. No, it's B. None of the above.
Come on.
So, Neil Poix, I gave you a chance. HM sauce and salad cream queen. Okay. So, HM sauce and salad queen.
That's good.
Oh, I get it now. I was trying to work it out.
Listening, shouldn't
you? Yeah.
Yes, they've been made available this week and will be on offer until the long Platinum Jubilee weekend. So,
nice.
Do you think that more brands should adopt a royal theme for the celebrations?
Yeah, why not? Bit of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what brands? What brands? Like Nutella? Or,
I'm trying to think of one without being...
Classic, like, British brands.
Classic
tea,
British
maybe?
brands. Oh, yeah. PG Tips.
Yeah.
How about H&M?
Oh, yeah.
That's probably not a good bet for them on the Royal Jubilee.
Oh, OK.
Yeah. OK, let's go to question 2. True or false? Skegness has been voted as the UK's best seaside... No, I haven't finished the question, so you can't answer it until I've finished. It's one of the rules. The best seaside destination, true or false?
True.
Yanis, what do you think?
I think it's true.
You think it's true? Well, Yanis, I don't know whether to disqualify you yet, but it's actually false.
Oh, no.
I gave you a chance again.
Skegness is lovely.
No, Skegness was voted the worst.
Oh, OK.
Oh, really?
Banbury in Northumberland was voted the best.
Oh, it does have nice
Skegness
beaches.
is quite nice. I've been to Skegness.
I've had a nice time in Skegness,
yeah. So what's your favourite British beach and seaside town type thing?
I like Hailing Island. They've got a pleasure beach there, and the roller coaster's really exciting because it was built in the 70s, and now it's all rusting. You're just waiting for it to go. So it's not like going to Disneyland and you go on ones that are really well engineered. This thing could kill you.
You could. Well, you say that. I mean, obviously they wouldn't say that.
They maintain it.
It's perfectly safe, and that wouldn't happen. But I suppose with you probably can't get your legs in it. What do you think?
Stanson's lovely. Old Hen Stanson's really nice.
I'll tell you my favourite place, Holy Island. Oh my
Where's
goodness,
that?
in Northumberland. It's just on the coast, on the east coast, and it's locked off by the sea. I shouldn't tell you that, but I don't want you to go there because I want to go there.
Can you walk out at low tide?
No, well, it's a long walk. They've got a causeway which is about a mile or so long, and then the sea blocks it off, and then it's actually you can't get to the island. And I don't even think they've got a police force. It's lovely.
It sounds beautiful.
It is beautiful. It's beautiful.
Bergerac.
So what's your favourite British seaside town at home? What do you think? Right, let's do question 3. Who has the Pope urged us to be kinder to? Is it A, our mothers? So it's 0 points so far. Our mothers. Is it B, our fathers? Or is it C, our mothers-in-law? Leo.
Is it our mothers-in-law?
Has to be.
And what do you think?
I would agree. It has to be mothers-in-law.
Mothers-in-law. It's C, mothers-in-law. That was just a throwaway point because we thought you might throw it away, but at least they got that right. It was an easy one. Yes, it is C, it's mother-in-law. Pope Francis said that mothers-in-law are often seen in a pejorative way, but he says that they should be treated as well as they give birth to our spouses. I think they should be treated the way they treat you. do you get on, Leo, with your mother-in-law?
Yeah, I really do. I really do. And funnily enough, people mock comedians of, the 70s for doing mother-in-law jokes. That was actually because people were poor up north when they got married, so they go and stay with the bride's family. So then, they're living in the matriarch is in a position of power. So they weren't really, jokes that are punching down. They were punching up at the matriarchal system.
That's interesting.
What about you, Yanis?
I'm lucky. I've got a really nice mother-in-law. So
you have to say that you're on TV.
Well, yeah, that's true. But no, I am genuinely lucky. But I can see. I've heard stories though, other friends and family. It can be challenging.
Yes, it is challenging. They've never liked me. I've never married anybody. But anyway, it's 1-1. Right. So here's question 4, the decider, the tiebreaker, because I wasn't expecting literally a 0-0 like this. True or false? If a baby is born on a plane, the parents have to pay for an extra ticket for the flight. Yanis.
False.
It's false. What do you think?
False.
Has to be.
Yeah.
Well, I'll take the first person's answer. It's actually true.
Whoa! That's Ryanair. That's only on Ryanair.
Yeah, wait a second, 'cause you've got
Tweedledum and Tweedledee.
You don't
That's what I've
pay.
got next to me.
You don't pay for a child until they're 2.
Yeah.
But then, well, that's what they're saying. It's true. I'm sorry. On a plane,
I want a
that
steward's
might be on a
inquiry.
cruise, but on a plane, I'm afraid that's what they're saying. So
wow,
that is
But
only
maybe it is
on Ryanair.
Wow.
Maybe it's
where yeah, but also you're not allowed to fly when you're about to when you're in the final month of.
well, that
Maybe
is
it comes
true. But
early.
sometimes people are pregnant; they don't even know they're pregnant.
Can you imagine getting charged? Well, I suppose you've just had a baby, you wouldn't mind too much.
I would.
You'd be happy. I would be annoyed. I'd be fuming.
I'd be absolutely furious. Well, it is actually true. A handy guide on what happens if someone gives birth on a plane, published in the Mirror, reminds us that airliners are not obliged to give the baby a free ticket. However, there have been many occasions when providers have been given a free flight as a gesture of goodwill. So, what do you think? They should be free, shouldn't they, really? Do you think they should be free?
Yeah, because also all the seats will be full. Are they going to get their own seat?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. Right, well, on today's show, we've been asking, was the Tory MP Neil Parish right to resign for watching porn in the Commons? And according to our Twitter poll, 72% of you say yes.
Wow.
It was right, I wasn't on the money this time. And 28% of you say no. I say he shouldn't have been. It's just a bit of porn. However, it's what you do when you're at work that you shouldn't be doing. That's why he should have to resign. Well, listen, Yanis, I've got to say thank you so much for joining me
Thank
on
you.
my
It's a
panel.
pleasure as always.
And also comedian Leo Kirst, thank you so much. And as ever, thank you to you at home for taking part in the show. I'll be back tomorrow at 4. I'll leave you with the weather.
Looking ahead to this evening's weather, and the UK is looking wet across much of Scotland and Northern Ireland, but mostly dry elsewhere. Let's take a look at the details. It will be a dry evening across southwest England, but clouds will increase from the north. A fairly mild evening with temperatures around 12 Celsius. Winds will also be light. Some late low sunshine across the London area in southeast England. A warm evening to come too, with temperatures hovering around 17 Celsius. A cloudy evening for Wales though, with outbreaks of rain across the north. Perhaps a few glimmers of hazy sunshine ahead of dusk towards Cardiff. Some bright skies for the Midlands too, especially to the south of Birmingham. Thicker cloud arriving to the north of the city. Temperatures beginning to fall as the thicker cloud moves in. Cloudy skies to end the day across northern England, with outbreaks of rain slowly edging southwards. The rain tending to be light and patchy though. Temperatures around 8 to 12 Celsius. The wet and breezy theme continues across much of Scotland through this evening. The rain turning heavy at times, mostly over the higher ground. 10 Celsius in Edinburgh. Cloudy and damp for most of Northern Ireland too, staying blustery along the north coast. Rain and drizzle leading to some murky conditions. Temperatures hovering around 10 or 11 Celsius. The cloud and rain will continue to move southwards overnight, but southeast England holding on to the dry weather. And that's how the weather's shaping up overnight and into tomorrow morning.
Join me, Darren Grimes, for Real Britain every Saturday and Sunday from 2 p.m.